everyone, and welcome to this edition of City Chat with City Magazine. I'm Kilee, Harmon, General Manager of City Magazine, and today we are visiting with Kate Herzog. Say hello.
Hey, everybody.
She is the Assistant Director for the Downtowners Association. Yes. Very cool. So how did you get there?
I had volunteered on a few committees for the Downtowners that actually started their marketing committee, and then I had helped them with street fair, just doing some volunteering things in the community, and the idea of downtown and what it was becoming at the time was really exciting. And so when the Downtowners looked at expanding their staff, I put my application in. Luckily I got it, and it's been really fun. Like you and I had talked about a little bit, there's a lot of different facets to the Downtowners. You're sort of a real estate agent. You're finding lessees and buyers for buildings downtown. You're an event planning organization. We do fundraisers like Street Fair and Rib Fest. You're a small business owner. There's only 2 of us in the office, so any IT problems, we fix. We vacuum our own floors, things like that.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's there's a lot of different hats, but it makes it really exciting. I like it a lot.
Very cool. So I guess it's never boring.
No, not at all. Quite busy and different every day. We're doing something different kind of every day, which is great.
And now, so you work with Dawn Kopp, who is
Yes.
the executive director.
Yep,
So-
Dawn's been there about over 5 years now.
Oh,
So
wow.
she's really, I know she says the same thing.
It seems very fast. She started there when I started at United Printing,
Yeah.
so it's like...
Time flies.
It does.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, she's been around and has really been involved in a lot of the new things that you see in downtown Bismarck. We are sort of a liaison between our downtown members and businesses and some of the city staff and programs. So working with Renaissance Zone and working with TIFF, she and the Downtowners have been very closely related with those 2 programs.
Very cool. So now your guys' mission basically is to promote and grow downtown Bismarck for the betterment of the community. So how has it been doing that? I mean, what are some of the better projects that you guys have done in order to fulfill that mission?
A lot of things that we do, we kind of address concerns, or we try and help our members in any way that we can. So, I mean, it could be something from, a parking issue in front of their store to, I'm looking at rehabbing a building, I want to put housing in, how do I go about starting those things? How do I apply for programs? I'm looking for space downtown. Do you know something available that would fit such and such a business? That's kind of, for the most part, how we can do our mission at the Downtowners office. We're not a city entity. We're almost a quasi-city entity. We don't receive any funds from the city. We're all privately based, or member-based. But that's kind of how we work with the private investors and with the city government to sort of help renew the downtown area.
So now, yeah, it's like when people drive by, I mean, downtown and in the different areas, yeah, there's buildings that have businesses in front of them, but then there's buildings that look like they could be vacant or they could be fulfilled. I mean, how does it break down? Is there a lot of more private business or retail, or is it more homes? I mean, how does it break down here in the downtown area?
One thing we're really looking to expand is housing. That's a big part of renewing the downtown area, is creating a mixed use a plan. So basically you want people to live downtown and then shop downtown, and it sort of is a symbiotic relationship. And one thing we don't have a lot of is what you consider market rate housing. We have some HUD housing, and there's some apartments open above shops, but we are kind of missing that large living community in the downtown area. There are some projects coming up that will fulfill some housing, which is really nice to see.
Like condos and things like that is what you're thinking?
Yep, there'll be some apartments going in above some of the shops. Steve Pine's development on the west end of downtown will have condos available. So that's what's starting to grow now, and that's what the need is now. We have the nightlife, so the nightlife is coming up,
Yep.
and now we need that housing portion of it. Retail is pretty strong. We have a lot of professional businesses downtown as well. So banks, we're kind of a financial center, lawyers, where they're close to the courthouses and things like that. So our downtown is, from 8 to 5 is fairly professional business. And then at night, we're going to see some of the entertainment things and restaurants really be the anchors for the evening.
Well, there has been a lot of new restaurants that have come in
Right.
recently. I mean, Blarney Stone has been there for about a year now, and then we've got Toasted Frog.
Right.
They just came in. Who am I missing? There's
Yeah.
Thoreau Grill, I know, has been here for a
Yep.
while. Peacock Alley under new ownership.
The patisserie has
The
also been
patisserie
in for
is-
a couple of years.
Yeah, about now. So, I mean, and now it looks like Space Aliens is coming down
Right.
here as well in the old Mr. Delicious building. So,
Yep.
I mean, what other projects are coming up?
And when we look at the restaurants too, you know, when you looked at downtowns in the past, you had those anchors like you had in the mall. You had the Herbergers were downtown and the JCPenney's were downtown. And now sort of the new model in Bismarck is the restaurants are those anchors for the downtown area. They're the big draw. There are a couple new restaurants in the works, but I couldn't tell you exactly what they are.
Oh,
There-
shucks, of course
Well,
not.
there are spaces that are going to encompass new restaurants. So just recently on Tuesday, actually, they approved Dr. Rick Becker's project that's going to go on the 500 block of Main Avenue, where Pacific Sound used to be. And that's going to be a huge building project, 3 stories. They're going to have a rooftop restaurant.
Okay.
So they're building that into the plan of the building, but I'm not sure what the restaurant will be. Same with Steve Pine's property to the west end of downtown where the Wilhelm Car Lot used to be. There will also be a restaurant in the main floor of that, but I'm not sure, again, what it
what
will
the
be.
theme and the concept
Right.
is. And oh, that's
Right.
exciting how many
Yeah.
new things are coming up. And that's another thing to try and let people know. I mean, downtown, it's not just from 3rd Street to 6th,
Right.
5th Street. I mean, what do you consider to be downtown? What is the downtown area?
Right. Generally, when you're talking about a Renaissance Zone district or the TIF district, you're talking about Washington Street to the west, Avenue A to the north, 12th Street to the east, and kind of zigzags on Front Avenue to the south. That's sort of what's considered the main Renaissance Zone. The core of downtown, most people consider the Chancellor Square area and Main Avenue, I would say. But 3rd Street's almost an invisible barrier because when Bismarck was growing, that was kind of the industrial area of Bismarck. That's where the larger buildings were and warehouse type things. And so that has yet to kind of turn itself into a downtown walking district. It's not as pedestrian friendly as what you'd consider east of 3rd would
Okay.
be. Right.
So now, you guys do a lot of events. Like you said, you guys are you wear many hats and want to visit event planning. So,
Right.
what are all of the events that you guys do put on, and what are the purpose for those events?
Right. We have always put on the street fair, which used to be part of Folk Fest in Bismarck, Mandan. And Folk Fest was a 2-week-long event where a whole bunch of different organizations did a specific event, and we did the street fair. And so when Folk Fest was no longer, we just continued on with the street fair, and it's always had really good numbers and increased there. We have about 180 food and arts and craft vendors that come down for 2 days in downtown Bismarck. This will be our 38th year for street fair, so that's a really long-standing
Now,
event.
when is that going to be again?
That will be September 16th and 17th this
Okay.
year. We also started doing the Rib Fest. This year was our 4th year. In June, we bring in national ribbers, and they're on a circuit kind of like NASCAR. So they go from Sioux Falls one weekend to Fargo, the next weekend to Bismarck, and they travel all around the country and
Okay.
serve barbecue. So that's kind of one of our new things that we've been doing. And it's turned out really well. Weather in North Dakota is always interesting. Last year we had some rain at Rib Fest and snow on Street Fair, so we kind of roll with the punches, but we've always had great public support for our events. It's been really nice.
The Rib Fest this year was very successful. It seems like
Yes.
there was like 1 or 2 more rib vendors than what you guys normally have had.
Yep, we're trying to grow it slowly enough so that the ribbers are happy and the customers are happy and things like that. So we had good response from having a couple new ribbers in, just something different to try. Yeah, it was a great Rib Fest.
Who won this year?
Porky and Beans
Okay.
won this year.
I love that name. That's
I
just so
know.
cute. Was that one of the newer ones? I can't
Yeah,
remember. That
he was one
the
of the new
one.
ones. And then Camp 31 was our other new ribber this year. They have some very interesting names. When we look for ribbers, they're very barbecue pun themed ribbers.
Oh, very funny. So are there any other events that you guys do? I mean, I know we have Urban Harvest going on right now.
Urban Harvest does have their own board. We help them with some logistical things like their street closures, their bathrooms, things like that. And they've done a great job. I want to say this is their 6th or 7th year. And just doing the 2 outdoor events that we do, I got to give them a lot of props for coming out, 6-7 weeks in a row, setting it up, tearing it down. And they have a really good following, I think. People are really looking for that kind of outdoor, that consistent outdoor fare that you might see in other communities.
Do you think a farmer's market is ever something that could come down to the downtown area?
They do a small farmer's market at Urban Harvest. What we'd really like to do is find some green space in downtown. That's really one of the big things we'd like to see happen in the next few years. Is there's no town center or there's no town square in Bismarck because we're based on railroad tracks instead of a river, where there's not a lot of open green space. And so if there were to become some green space, I think that would be really heavily utilized in the community by all types of organizations looking to do outdoor events downtown.
Is that something that is in the workings then? Or?
There's been a few groups that have looked at some spaces and seeing what they could get done with finding some green space for Bismarck. It's a big need here, and we hear it from a lot of organizations. They'd love to do something downtown, but if you do, you've got to close streets off, and it can be kind of, you don't want to disrupt a lot of the traffic flow downtown and things like that. Plus, there's a lot of emergency routes with the 2 hospitals being so close. So street closures can be difficult. A green space would be really, really well utilized, I think.
Very cool. So let's get into this TIF account thing, because in the June issue of City Magazine, we ran an article that was talking about the TIF account. And basically, for people who maybe haven't read the article, what the TIF account seems to be is that there's this area, and it's downtown Bismarck, where the taxes from these businesses go into a TIF account versus going to the normal entities that usually operate off of taxes, such as the Bismarck Public Schools, the park recreation area, some of the other city entities in county and things like that. So this money goes into this TIF account, and then builders draw from that TIF account to sell bonds in order to fund their different projects that are going on in this area. And a lot of people in the article kind of set up 2 arguments. One, that the TIF account really is kind of stealing, in another term, from the other entities that usually receive funds because their money is not going to those entities. And 2, it raised property taxes for everybody else because those entities that usually receive funds, they still maintain their budget, and so everybody else who pays property taxes have to kick in that difference. So that's what the arguments were in City Magazine, and there's always 2 sides to every article and story, and that's what the purpose of this investigative issue is in City Magazine, is to look at these issues that maybe aren't the most popular and to talk about both different sides.
Sure.
So the Downtowners, you guys wrote an article in this August issue that is a rebuttal towards the one that was written in June.
Right.
So tell me a little bit from your perspective and the downtown perspective what the TIF account is.
There's two programs that operate in the downtown area. One is the Renaissance Zone, which is a statewide program, and there's about 47 Renaissance Zone communities in North Dakota.
Mandan being one of them, am I correct?
Yeah, they have a Renaissance Zone as well.
Yes.
And then another is tax increment financing, or TIF districts, which also operate in a number of different cities in North Dakota. The difference with Bismarck's is Bismarck's TIF funds what are called the core programs, and there are 4 or 5 different redevelopment programs that the TIF funds through core. So kind of an easy example about how TIF works is, let's say I owned a building in downtown Bismarck, and in 1979 it was worth $100,000. Today it's worth $150,000. I, as the property owner, am still paying property taxes on a $150,000 building. I'm not paying any